Good morning, I guess morning for some of you on the West Coast, and for everyone else in every other time zone, good afternoon. We'll give it a minute to let everyone get in here into the room. If you can, and many of you are, so thank you. But for those of you that aren't, if you can be on camera, please do. If you can't, we understand. It's always more fun to be able to talk to real faces than it is to black squares. I see many of our good clients and friends. All right, where are we at? A little over 100. We'll give it another minute. My name's Chris Heller. I'm the president of the company. For those of you that we haven't met before, I have a real estate team in San Diego I've had for a little bit, and but spend all my time on helping you, our partners, succeed at the highest level. We're going to have a really good session today. It's going to be quick. It's going to be 40 minutes. Now it's going to be 37 minutes, and we will start to get started here right away. Let me share my screen. All right, so welcome to our November Partner Forum. The reason we do these every month, this is the primary way that we can communicate with our partners and where our partners can communicate with us. And what do we want to communicate? We want to communicate, number one, if there's any insights we have, anything that we're doing new or different that's going to impact you. And by the way, we hopefully only do things that impact you in a positive way. If it's not, please communicate with us, and you're usually pretty good about doing that. And the other reason we do this is to be able to hear from some of our partner teams on what they're doing to drive success. And today's going to be no different. We're going to do that. A couple of things I want to hit on before we bring on our guests. We look at every number all day long, forever. And some of the things we look at are the things that drive the most success. So I'm going to mention two things. We've mentioned these before, but they're important, so I just want to highlight them again. And one is that the agents and teams that set an appointment on the initial call and then meet with that consumer sometime in the first 14 days have a dramatically higher conversion rate than the ones that don't. So the key is appointment on the first call and then actually meet with them within 2 weeks. That is the beginning of building the foundation for a relationship with that person. Think of it, and we've used this analogy before. Think of it as a blind date, right? Get set up on a blind date. The sooner that date is, the more likely it is to happen. The longer it takes, the more there's reasons creep in on why it maybe shouldn't happen. When you accept a warm transfer, you much have a higher likelihood of transacting. So, as you know, we get a consumer on the phone that comes to us on Movoto.com. We get them excited about talking to your team. We send a text message out to you and your team members. When someone is available and someone responds, can't talk today. When someone is available and responds, we have a much higher, in fact, a 2.5 times higher conversion rate than when no one responds. Because when no one responds, we have to tell that consumer, sorry, no one's of it seems to be available right now. We'll have them follow up with you. And when we hang up the phone with that consumer, there's always the chance that you will never get them back on the phone again, right? They may never respond. You call them, you text them, they don't know who you are, they don't recognize the number, they cool off. They were on another site, they've already been connected to another agent, they're already looking at properties with someone else. So live connections are the most important. We do everything we can to drive the maximum number of live connections to you. We want to make sure you're doing everything you can to accept those. All right, I want to get to the good stuff, and the good stuff is this team that we're going to be bringing on and sharing with you. Excuse me. Micah and his team are from, correct me if I'm wrong, Micah, the Norfolk, Virginia area?
Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads, yeah.
Okay, great. Whoops, let me go back. I didn't mean to do that. I guess do I need to stop sharing my screen, Jenna, so that we can see our panelists?
I've pinned everyone, so you're good to stop sharing, Chris.
Okay. All right, there they are. I can see. So Micah reminded me that we met at FubCon back in I guess that was in the spring, and or whenever that was. Was it last year? I don't even remember.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
Last year. And we have, for some of you who were already with us, Micah said, hey, I want to be part of the network. And I was like, well, I don't think we have any availability, but if anything changes, we'll let you know. And then he followed up, and now he's one of our partners, and we're glad he is, and we're glad that you practice what you preach and you followed up. Micah, why don't you introduce the people on the screen so that everyone in the audience knows who we're talking to and what their roles are.
Yeah, sure. And I'll touch on something real quick that I think is important. So, number one, thank you, Chris, for having us. And 100% right. The future is in the follow-up. That goes with leads. That goes with anything in your business. I wanted to be a part of this network, and I couldn't find a way in. And so when I saw the opportunity, I went for it and I followed up, and we're grateful to be here. So Troy Levin is here with us. Troy's got Troy, 5 or 6 years in the business. Some experience, phenomenal salesperson, fantastic on the phones. We have Kristen Arnold, has been in the business for about 2 years, was with a firm that did not work leads at all, didn't really do anything for about a year. She came to us just 8 or 9 months ago, and she's rolling, multiple sales, doing really great. And Vinny Lyons he's right at just shy of a 1-year mark and about 7 million in sales.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, you guys. Thanks for being willing to share to our other teams and partners. So hey, I just want to start off with this because we were talking about this back virtual stage, and that is, there is an absolute distinction between online leads and sphere business or referral business, and how we think about that and how we approach that makes all the difference in the world. Micah or Vinny, Kristen, any one of you, talk to me about that. Like, what's your mindset, or what do you guys do different, or how do you think differently about an online consumer versus a sphere lead?
So I think it's really important that, our team is very into building relationships. And in an online lead situation, that is what we have to do, because they don't already know us. They don't already trust us. So what we have to do is make sure that we are, that we're talking to them as people, not just home buyers. And I feel like that is something that is very, very important, because no one wants to be treated like a number.
So give me an example of like what in a conversation, what would that look or sound like? How would you do that?
So
go ahead, Troy.
No, someone else go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna reiterate what you said, and Micah's very important statement that he is constantly sharing, especially when new agents come on, is make a friend. And so when we start the conversation, we rehearse this, we practice this in role playing, and I'm just, I'm still newer and getting the hang of it, but it's so true not to get on there and try and sell them something. So the first thing that we do is just ask them, hey, why did you come onto our website? If it's a lead that comes in from the website. If it's a Movoto lead, that would be more of, so I'm really glad we're starting a conversation. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about your desire to move. Start talking to them as a friend, and think of them in your mind as a friend first and foremost, instead of going right to, so what do you want? What are you trying to get out of a house? What's your budget? Have you talked to a lender? All of those things that we want to do. But
Vinny, can you share? Vinny shared something with me yesterday. We've been focusing a lot on motivation, on talking to folks about what is your motivation. Vinny, share with me what we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, so that's kind of past couple weeks on our training have been kind of pivoting to, what's your motivation for searching on our site or looking for a home? Try to get them talking and excited. And again, the big thing is, not strictly just checking the minimal boxes of what they're looking for, but getting them talking and more comfortable with you. So yeah, honestly, finding out what their motivation is and reasoning with them and finding out
thing
their
I love
why, if you will.
The thing I love about the motivation, Chris, is I mean, almost 100% of the time leads to some sort of an emotional reaction or response. There is something about the motivation. I'm getting older. I can't do stairs now. My family is growing. My family is shrinking, whatever it may be. And so I probably 10 times a day say, stop selling houses, start building relationships. And that motivation, if you get right to motivation, that immediately opens up a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's great. I mean, we know that buyers buy on emotion, sellers sell on logic. And when we're dealing with buyers and we're talking about their emotions, the best way to start to uncover those or to get to those is to have those conversations. Now, we also know the best way to do that is face to face, right? That's the easiest way to build a relationship. So what's your guys' philosophy or what's your approach? You get that call and you know that getting face to face with them is the key. Is that your focus? Is that what you're trying to do? Is that what you're talking about? Tell me how that goes.
Troy, why don't you?
I would say that for each call that we're on, the goal is to get in front of them, period. So like, yes, we need to build a relationship. We are not selling houses. We are building relationships. That is pretty much our team mantra. However, like you said, in order to do that, we need to get in front of them. And your stats show that if we can get in front of them quickly, that's going to give us the best ability to move them through the sales process.
Yeah. Now, Troy or anyone. So we know that, like, we look at the stats, right? We record every call, we listen to the calls, we see the ones where the agents just go straight from an appointment, get an appointment. We see what converts. We know that the agents and the teams that convert at the highest level are the ones that are just have that one goal in mind, like you said, setting an appointment. Yet there's not a day goes by where I either don't hear calls or have agents ask me, but Chris, what if they're not qualified? Chris, what if they're not this? Chris, what if?
So I thought you were going to say, what if, they're telling me they don't want to buy a house for 2 years? It doesn't matter. You talk to them about how going to look at homes is a process. And it's important to start the process now. You know what? It's pretty typical that I start working with people a year or two before they're actually ready to buy so that they can get their ducks in a row. And it's, using different skills and different muscles. So like, let's get out there and start now. Maybe what we can do is start eliminating the homes that you don't want, but you don't know that yet until we get out there. So it's about finding, they signed on because they saw a home they liked. It's not because they were trying to buy a car, right? Yeah. So just kind of being able to go with that and to be able to let them know that it's okay that they're not going to buy for 2 years. It's okay that they're not ready. It's okay that their credit isn't ready. Get in front of them. All of the other things. Some people think they have terrible credit when their credit is, 675. You know what? Those people can get a house and they don't know it.
Yeah.
I was just going to share a practical application for that. Something that we do is if I'm on the phone with someone that wants to see a house immediately, the last thing I'm going to do is jump in. You want to see 123 Main Street? Hold on a second. Let me see if it's available. That is 100% wrong. Absolutely could not be any more wrong than to do that, because the minute it's not available and I tell you the answer you don't want to hear, you don't want to talk to me anymore. That's it. It's the end of our relationship. So what we do, I will stand up and walk away from my computer so that I'm not lying when I say, hey, I'm not in front of my computer right now, but let's go ahead and set that appointment for 3 o'clock tomorrow. I'll see you there. Now, when I call that listing agent and say, hey, I see your house is under contract already. I don't know if you're dealing with this right now, if it's just me, but man, I am seeing squirrely buyers more than I've ever seen in my 18-year career. They're just walking away for no reason. A lot of times before they even get to home inspection. Would you mind if I showed that house for a possible backup offer? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. Now, when I meet the folks, I can say, guys, pressure's off. This one's under contract. Nobody buys the first house they see. You weren't going to love this one anyways. So let's take with the pressure off. I want you to go through. I really want to get to know you. Tell me your likes, tell me your dislikes. And if you happen to love it, I'll let them know that we're ready to bring a backup offer if anything goes sideways. That's one thing that we try real hard. We are going to do everything we can to push our way into that house to get that meeting.
Yeah, I love that. You put a big smile on my face. I can't tell you how often we hear calls where the agent does just the opposite, where they say, you know what, let me check on that. You know, they say, oh yeah, the consumer says, I want to see the property tomorrow afternoon. Oh, let me see if it's available. Oh, you know what, that one's already sold and lost opportunity. The consumer, a lot of times the consumer says, well, then why did they connect me to you? And hangs up, right? It's like, no, what you said in a different way is set a hard appointment, a specific time, a specific day. You have plenty of time to get smart on the property after you hang up the phone. You have plenty of time to do your research, plenty of time to look up switch properties. So if you can't see that one, you have others you can tell them about. And then going back to something you said, Troy, is, with the example of someone that's 2 years out. I call that noise, right? They're like, oh, I was just going to use an analogy. It would have been a horrible one. I'm glad I had a filter on it. It had to do with my ex-wife. But when, okay, when they want to do something right now, sometimes it's noise. When they want to do it far off in the future, sometimes it's noise. Not listening to the noise and not getting stopped by it, and setting an appointment and meeting with them and building that relationship, starting the process with them is the key to success. So great job demonstrating that.
Yeah, on that note of, in the case of, oh, I'm not ready yet, this and that, our go-to line on some incoming calls, you might be 3 to 6 months out, like most people, is would you say that's where you're at? Disarming them, like, oh, it takes as much time as you need, keep building towards that. Like you said, it's noise, it's an excuse, but kind of getting past that and getting their guard down, like, okay, he's not trying to rush me into buying anything. It's something that Micah preaches, and we kind of start with that.
And really, it's that getting that face-to-face appointment that really is the most important ingredient in this. And we have found that there are buyers that will tell us that they're a year or two out, and then 3 months later, we're sitting at the closing table with them.
That's our way in,
Happens
Mr.
all the
Mrs.
time.
Buyer. I listen, if you're like most people, you're probably a good 3 to 6 months, maybe even a year out or more. Does that sound like you? Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah. All the pressure's gone now. This guy's not trying to sell me anything. He's good. So now we can get into a relationship. Now we can start. Well, listen, when you are ready, 2 years from now, whenever it is, when you're ready, what type of house will you need? Do schools matter to you? Will schools at the time, not now, but later, like you said, will they matter to you? And so we keep everything a little bit in a distance. That gets them talking. Next thing you know, 5-7 minutes into a conversation, you find out the lease is up in 60 days.
Yep. Love that. By the way, any of our partners that are on the Zoom with us, if you have questions, put them in chat. We'll try to get to them. This is an interactive conversation. So next topic, we all agree, and I don't think there's anyone on this Zoom that would disagree, that getting the appointment is the key. What do you guys do to ensure that, let's say you set the appointment, I don't know what day of the week this is. This is Wednesday. You set the appointment for Saturday. What do you do to ensure the likelihood of that appointment actually happening on Saturday and the consumer shows up to meet you? What's your process?
So I think, and Troy's touched on it in the past, not during this conversation, but one of the first things that we do, again, everything I talk about circles back to relationships. So sorry if I sound like a broken record here, but one of the things that we do when I am going to call you back, I am usually going to find a reason to get off of the bridged call, the call from Movoto that connected us, and call you back pretty quickly, not necessarily with the answer yet, but I'm going to find a reason for you to start recognizing and it's when I still have what you need, right? You need that answer, you need that appointment, to see that house, whatever it is, without giving that up. I'm going to find a reason to quickly call you back to start that relationship, because, right, the faster relationships get to the, you get to the wedding by more and more and more touches, more dates, they get more frequent, they get, they become more intimate. And if I can start that, the sooner I can start that, the sooner I can get to that finish line. If a wedding is a finish line and if a commission is a wedding.
There you go. There you go.
I think to speak to that point also is that specifically what we do is when we get off the phone, we text them. And a lot of times we'll text them a contact card that they can download into their phone that has our picture. But the other piece of that that's really important that it took us a little while to figure out is that we have to get them to text us back to confirm that they received it. So that way we know that as we send them pictures and links through text, through Follow Up Boss, they will get them. Like their spam filter
And
won't spam them out.
last thing, Chris, to piggyback on that, you guys, our contact for everyone on the team, as soon as they join, like day one, I'm like, create a contact for yourself in your phone. And my contact, I am Realtor Micah Lorindo. I keep it in my favorites. So I fire that off to them. We've saved it in my V card. We use Follow Up Boss. I'm sure any CRM that you use has something similar. I've saved my first name as Realtor Micah. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. I'm terrible with names. If you are as well, I've made it real easy for you. When I'm sending this to you right now, make sure that you got it. Yep, I see it. Great. Save it to your phone. When you can't remember my name tomorrow, just go to R for Realtor. Realtor Micah, there I'll be. If you're great with names, by all means, edit out the Realtor part and I'll be there under Micah.
Yeah, I love it. You know, that's one of the reasons why we tell everyone when you on that bridge call, before you end it, always say your name again, right? You guys, most agents are really good about coming on, saying their name, but after you have a conversation, you set an appointment, you tell them what's going to happen next, they say, great, I'll see you on Saturday. And so happy to meet you then, and you hang up. They don't remember your name.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yes, you're gonna send it to them, but say it again. The other thing that you guys touched on, and this is something that I've been working with my team on, is the first 72 hours, right? The first 72 hours that we meet a lead, we need to build the foundation for that relationship. And one of the way we do it is very similar to what you just said. We think of a reason to email and text them. So we send them an email, maybe, hey, here's some additional information about the neighborhood of the home that we're going to go see. And then we'll text them and say, hey, Micah, I sent you an email. Did you get it? Right? The rule is every text ends in a question. Why? Because we want them to engage. And after 3 days of a text and an engagement, consciously or subconsciously, there's a relationship starting to establish even before that first meeting. So I love it. Okay, let's talk about that first meeting. Now you're at the house or Starbucks or your office, wherever it is. We know the goal was to get there. Now what's the goal?
Get the buyer broker signed.
All right. And what's that conversation look like? Give us an example.
Well, I mean, I think also, get the buyer broker signed. That's the end goal of the conversation. But before that, it's just building more of that relationship. I had a Movoto lead it's been a month or so, and I met with the young man at Starbucks, and we talked for 30 minutes before I ever mentioned the buyer broker or asked him about his lender or anything like that. And he said to me, you're the first real estate agent that hasn't tried to sell me anything. So I definitely want to go with you. So, just continuing to build that relationship, and then, of course, getting to the buyer broker. But that's always the place to start.
It's always
All right.
easier, right? When you've got that level of trust and that kind of relationship. Troy, what were you going to say?
So I feel like most of my situations have been meeting them at the house. And so I let them know, listen, in order to show you the house, I need to go over with you. I have certain responsibilities due to you as an agent. And in order to open the door for you, I am going to need you to sign this, but I want you to know what it is I'm asking you to sign. And so I'll go through my responsibilities as an agent that we're signing this document, so that I can show you the house and any other house that you want to see, and that I'm actually required to show you the homes that you want to see. And that, that my compensation is generally paid by the sellers. And, if they are not offering compensation, yes, you can be responsible for that, or we can only, you know, look at other houses where they will offer compensation. You don't have to worry about that. So these are, I mean, you know, we have to touch on all of these things. And the other thing is, like, listen, I know that we have just met. And so, you know, if you are comfortable moving forward with me and knowing that, you know, we're going to be hanging out for the next 6 months, finding your house, great. If, you know, and you kind of have to get a feel, because I don't say this every time, but we do have a clause that we can add to the buyer broker that releases them within 3 days. And so if they decide they want to work with another agent, or, you know, we can also, for some people, they just want to see that one house. That's fine. I will set this buyer broker up just for this house. And what that means is that if you want to buy this house, I'll be the agent that works with you to get it. But you know, if you decide to look at other houses with other agents, you're allowed to do that. I don't stress but that's like a response, because there are people that are nervous, and it's hard
We
to
don't- We
contract.
definitely try to stay away from the one-offs, because once they know that exists, then you're going to be writing 20 different solo buyer broker agreements for every single house you go to. So that's a last resort. But I think I think that's a big thing of especially right now these days, is having multiple resources. We have touring agreements that we can break out if it's someone you've had a 4.5-minute conversation with, and there is no trust, no rapport built whatsoever, and they just want to see a house and you need some extra time. Touring agreement, great. Is that ideal? No. Full-on buyer brokers, great. Well, we've got a buyer broker, as Troy said, that has a 3-day, kind of rescission. It allows them to cancel, but it holds them to any property that we've shown them. So we have multiple options. One other thing that we do is we've got about a 25-page buyer guide that we send out to them digitally. And then we'll usually send that out, anywhere from 24 hours before the first meeting to just before the first meeting, and tell them that, hey, I just emailed this to you. It's going to be in your email. Hang on to it. It's very in-depth. In the meantime, we've just got a small little bifold that we hand them just to feel like we've given them something in person, walks through the steps, just very limited. But I think right now, in this day and age, I think having the resources to back up what we do for them is just super, super important. And we're still working on perfecting all of the, we've always had buyer brokers in this area, so it's not that new to us, but we're still working on perfecting the new rules.
Yeah.
And Micah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Troy.
No, Micah, you touched on something, is that we also position ourselves as resources to our customers and clients and future clients. And I say that not just, helping them think outside the box. So, okay, so this is your budget. So like, if you were to look at something that maybe needs a little bit of elbow grease, I happen to know people that can help, that can, work with different budgets and blah, blah, blah. If you're moving here from another area, I highly recommend that you pick a few different neighborhoods that you think you're interested in, maybe based on the price points of some of the houses. And I am going to tell you that you should go eat at a restaurant there. And if you don't want to do that, I would say at the very least, go into the grocery store, because you want to get a vibe for that new neighborhood. And the people that you see in the grocery store are going to be your neighbors.
Yeah.
And so that positions me, like, they're like, oh, I never thought of that. So that positions me as a resource for them for the entire picture of what they're doing, not just buying the house.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. And it's helping to build that trust, that relationship, which is so key. And the other thing that you guys highlighted that I want to just comment on is, having that conversation face to face. Again, we get to listen to calls, and some of them are great and some of them are cringy. I'll hear calls where an agent will do a great job, set an appointment, and then say, hey, do you have access for e-signatures? And the client's like, yeah. And why? He goes, oh, I have to send you this agreement that you have to sign. And like, consumer's like, why? And then that just goes downhill, right? They're like blindsiding the consumer. Those conversations are work best face to face.
They do.
Period. Yeah. So
And
And we
I've
see the
screwed
same thing
enough of
just
those
within our
up.
own, team, Chris. We see the same thing. We're all experiencing the same thing, and it's like, whoa, hold up, Anyways, we can talk more about that. But go ahead. What other questions do you have for
yeah,
us?
no. So
But
Mike,
just to say that
sorry,
some
go.
of the top producers do mess that up, and we've had to learn that we just have to show up with it in hand or with the ability to send it while we're in front of them. So I want
Yeah.
people to know, like, it takes a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mike, a question for you as the team leader, the one responsible for coaching, training, developing, holding accountable your team. Let's talk about some of those topics. Like when you are partnering with a company like us, you're getting leads, you're entrusting those relationships with Troy and Vinny, Kristen, and maybe others on the team. How do you ensure that that the things that need to be done are being done, and that there's follow-up taking place? Like what are you talking to them about? What are you looking at on a weekly basis? What are those conversations like if you're having conversations?
So we are. We're a team, just so everybody knows, about 15 agents. And man, when I started a team, I envisioned about 15. I envisioned 15 Navy SEAL friggin', I can teach them how to sell. We're gonna have 3 squads of 5, and we're just gonna kill it. And that that has not happened. We I don't know anybody in sales who doesn't have a top third, a middle third, and a bottom third. And to me, the top third is not always necessarily, especially when we're talking about leads, and especially inbound leads like these. My top third is not always my top third in production. For me, it's the most, when I have partners that I have to answer to, production, yes, matters. At the end of the day, I've told people I'm not always the best at showing my work. I'm not the most put together team leader where I'm just checking the box and we're doing the exact one-on-ones at the exact right time. We get the right answer. We're going to close more than most anybody out there. But I'm very hands-on. I'm very involved with the team. I will get on the phone and lock the business down. I call behind them to just say quality control, just, hey, this is Micah, team leader here. Just want to make sure your questions have been answered. How's everything going? And see, I don't typically do it if they've already got traction, but if it's something that they don't have traction on, I'm going to see if I got an opportunity to get a conversation there and then work it back in. Hey, listen, you've been working with Kristen. That's awesome. Okay, I'm making notes here. Let me get this information to Kristen, and I keep working her back into the conversation. So I'm very hands-on in that respect. I am still in production, but that is my goal, to get to a place where all I do is support the team. That's my ultimate goal, but that's what we do. We do a lot of one-on-ones. I'm very hands-on, and these guys here that you're looking at show up, period. I've got others that are selling great, and they don't show up to anything. So that's cool. They do their own thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
On that note, there's only, everyone on this screen is the only people that have access to these leads. So these are earned and they can be taken away. So we know, we have to do certain things in order to keep these, and these are the highest level of leads there are. So we definitely make sure we're checking the boxes and everything. And then back to what Micah said, I'm the first one to call him and say, hey, someone's ducking me, or this person's a little wishy-washy, lock him down for me. And he'll step right up and do that and still let me collect all the commission. So it's important to have someone, and again, I'm a newer agent. So it's definitely nice to have someone you can call and back you up on things like that. So
I love the teamwork. Go, Troy. Hey, go ahead. I know you wanted to add something.
Well, no, you had said something earlier that I honestly found mind-blowing, because I can't imagine that there are any leads that get put out there, any live leads that are just not answered.
Yeah.
Like, we are all, and there's only 3 of us, and we're clamoring for them,
We
right? Because we know, there are different lead sources out there. However, you guys do a screening process that I think makes your leads more valuable than other lead sources can be. And I can't, I get mad when I click the link and it says lead not available. I can't imagine that you're putting live calls out there and no one's picking them up.
Yeah, neither can we, but, it happens. And it happens at an alarmingly high rate, a higher rate than anyone on the Zoom would even believe. And I think one of the reasons that happens, and I want to ask you guys about this, is I think a lot of times, let me rephrase that. I think some of the time, agents are guilty of judging a book by its cover. And they see what the lead is, or where it is, or the price point it is, and they make a decision, or they have a hesitation, or they think they start to go in how the conversation's gonna go, or how what the outcome's going to be, and they don't accept it. How do you guys not do that?
There's definitely times where you see a, low $100-something thousand lead. It's a nice Sunday evening, you're relaxing in bed, but again, goes back to just being responsible for being on part of this lead team, and someone's got to pick them up. So, I mean, just biting the bullet, and sometimes they can easily turn into something a lot better than they look. So, really someone's got to do it.
I have a great story about that because I had $199,000 lead that came in that turned into a $500,000 sale. I had and when we look at different, like, the whole scope of internet leads, I have one lead that came in in the $300,000 range. I drove all over the state with them. And then they bought a $500,000 home in an area they told me that they didn't want to live in, that was close by. And then they were selling their home to their son's friend, and that went south. And so then I listed their $555,000 house for them. And so, I mean, like,
Chris, I think,
and then they were at my wedding this last weekend.
I
So,
think,
I mean, you just don't know.
I think what
when you
Troy's
look
getting
at
at is
something that comes
opportunity.
in.
Like,
Yeah.
how many if you guys are getting leads, right? How many of your how many are calling in? How many leads do you get on the internet that are calling you? Not
Not
friggin' many.
many. No.
Answer the phone. It's an opportunity. It can turn into Troy's story. It could be $100,000 lead with a 470 credit score. Cool. 5-minute conversation. That was easy, but it could lead to multiple deals and a guest at your wedding.
Hey, I promised everyone that we'd keep it at 40 minutes. We were at time. There's a couple questions. I'll make sure we answer them offline. Just ending on that last point, Micah, you never know what the opportunity comes from. You may get a wedding gift out of it, like Troy did. And if everyone that's watching this, this is one of the highest converting teams, and I think we would agree that a lot of it, maybe the majority of it, has to do with their mindset, their approach, how they think about things. They may not be the most experienced, may not be the highest skilled. Some of them are newer, but they all have the right approach. So guys are great partners. We appreciate you. Thank you everyone for being here. Micah, Vinny, Troy, Kristen, thanks so much for being vulnerable and sharing, and we will see everyone next month at our partner webinar. Have a great
Thanks,
rest
guys.
of the
Thanks
we
for
can
having
help,
us,
Thank
Chris.
please
you.
don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks.
Bye.